Om Shri Padmatmane Namaham. Jai Sita Ram devotees. I'd like to welcome each and every one of you to our virtual Sunday morning service this beautiful August 9th, 2020. At this time, devotees, I ask that we all please clasp our hands, we close our eyes. Void your mind of any external thoughts at this time, and focus your minds on the feet of the Lord as we commence with our puja and pray for today. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnata Purnamurachyate Purnasya Purnamaraya Purnameva Vashishyate Ishavasyam Niram Sarvam Yatkinsha Jagatyam Jagat Tena Tyaktina Bhunjeta Magratha Kasya Swidhanam Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanam Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahe Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahe Hari Om Shanti 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 Hari Om. At this time, devotees, I ask that we all join together as we commence in chanting the most powerful Gayatri Mantra. Om Agakshivare Devi Akshare Brahmavadini Gayatri Jagat Matar Vishwayoni Namostude Om Bhuri Bhuvaswa Tatsavitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yonah Prachodayat Om Bhuri Bhuvaswa Tatsavitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yonah Prachodayat Om Bhuri Bhuvaswa Tatsavitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yonah Prachodayat Hari Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Prem Sabur Gayatri Mata Ki Jai. Devotees, one of the things that I find to be very important, something that we learned at the end of chapter 4 of the Bhagvat Gita, is that if your mind ever feels like it's in turmoil, if your body feels stressed, if you feel like you can't handle everything that the world is throwing at you, the one thing that we can do is control something within our body, and that something is called our breathing. At any point in time, if you're ever facing an obstacle in this world, an obstacle in this life, a mental, a physical, a spiritual, or emotional obstacle, you can always pray to Lord Ganesh. Focus on Ganapati Bhagwan, but most importantly as well, as you focus on Lord Ganesh, as you pray to remove those obstacles, you should always breathe. Inhale slowly, exhale slowly. And to do that, your stress will be removed. So as we pray to Lord Ganesh, devotees, ask you take a big breath in, let a big breath out. Focus your mind on the feet of Lord Ganesh as we offer these prayers. Om Gajananam Bhuta Ghanadhi Sevitam Kapitha Jambu Palacharam Akshanam Umasutam Shoka Vinashakarakam Namami Viganeshwara Pada Pankajam Om Vakratuna Mahakaya Surya Koti Samaprabham Nirviganam Kurume Deva Sarvakarishu Sarvada Om Raksha Raksha Ganadhaksha Rakshatre Lokya Rakshakar Bhaktanam Bhayam Kartha Tratha Bhava Bhavarnavar Om Shriman Mahaghanadipate Namaham Prem Se Bolo Ganesh Bhagwan Ki Jai. Devotees, as we continue on with our puja and our prayers for today, I ask that we all offer prayers to that universal mother and that destroyer of all evils in our life. That we join together and we offer prayers to Adi Shakti, Durga Mata, as we join together. Om Jayanti Mangala Kali Bhadra Kali Kapalini Durga Kshama Shiva Dhatri Swaha Swadha Namostute Jai Tvam Devi Chamune Jai Putarte Nihardini Jai Sarvagate Devi Kalarhatri Namostute Devi Sarvabhuteshu Vishnu Mayeti Shabditha Namastasye 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 Namo Namah Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Buddhi Rupena Samstita Namastasye 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 Namo Namaya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Lakshmi Rupena Samstita Namastasye 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 Namo Namaya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Shakti Rupena Samstita Namastasye 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 Namo Namaya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Shraddha Rupena Samstita Namastasye 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 Namo Namaya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Shanti Rupena Samstita Namastasye 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 Namo Namaya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Tushti Rupena Samstita Namastasye 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 Namo Namaya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Dhaya Rupena Samstita Namastasye 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 Namo Namaya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Matri Rupena Samstita Namastasye 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 Namo Namah Dehi Saubhagyam Arogyam Dehi me paramam sukham Rupam dehi jayam dehi Yasho dehi dvasho jahi Om Prem Bolo Hari Shakti Durga Mata Ki Jai. Devotees, as we continue on with our prayers, I ask that we all clasp our hands and close our eyes as we join together and offer prayers to that sustainer of all righteousness, that sustainer of all things dharmic in this universe and in this world, as we offer prayers to Lord Vishnu. Om Shantakaram Bhujagshayanam Padmanabham Suresham Vishwadharam Gagan Sadrisham Meghavarnam Shubhangham Om Lakshmi Kantam Kamalanayanam Yogi Bhiradhyanagamyam Vande Vishnu Bhavamaya Haram Sarvaloke Kanatam Om Sashankha Chakram Sakiritha Kundhalam Sapitha Vastram Sarasi Ruhekshanam Sahara Vakshastala Shobikostu Bhashriyam Namami Vishnu Shirasa Chaturbhujam Namami Vishnu Shirasa Chaturbhujam Om Prem se Bolo Vishnu Bhagwane Ki Jai. And finally, devotees, we offer prayers to that universal Father, that universal Guru. We offer prayers to that destroyer of all evils in our life and in this universe. We offer prayers to Lord Shiva. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Haraporang Horang Karunavadharam samsara saram bhujangendraharam sarha santam hirdayardvinne bhavam bhavani sahitam namami bhavam bhavani sahitam namami. Devotees, now at this time, I ask that we all join together as we chant this very beautiful verse. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Hari Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Hari Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Hari Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Devotees, we offer this next prayer for all those suffering from various illnesses, diseases, injuries, and ailments. We ask that they may have a fast, speedy, and full recovery. We also offer a prayer for those transitioning from this world to the next. May the passage be a smooth and tranquil one. Om Trayambakam Yajamehe Sugandhim Pushti Vardhanam Urvarukamiva Bandhanat Mrityurmukshi Omamrutat. Om Trayambakam Yajamehe Sugandhim Pushti Vardhanam Urvarukamiva Bandhanat Mrityurmukshyo Mamrutat. Om Trayambakam Yajamehe Sugandhim Pushti Vardhanam Urvarukamiva Bandhanat Mrityurmukshyo Mamrutat. Om Yanyanapate Namaha. Om Kartikeya Namaha. Om Nandishwarai Namaha. Om Vasukiye Namaha. Om Shri Sambhasada Shivaya Namaham. Prem se bolo Shiva Shankara Bhagwane ki jai. Devotees, before we continue on with our sermon for today, for all of us who have a guru, I ask that we offer a prayer to our guru. If not, then I ask we take Lord Shiva in our mind as the universal guru as we pray. Om Gurura Brahma Gurura Vishnu Gurura Deo Maheshwara Gurura Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Prem se Guru Gurudevo ki jai. Devotees, last week we had completed chapter 4 of the Srimad Bhagvat Gita. Chapter 4 being Jnana Yoga, the yoga of transcendental knowledge, knowing what transcendental knowledge is. And during that time, Bhagwan Shri Krishna informs us that transcendental knowledge teaches us that it's information that's passed down through the ages. And that key to knowing what that information is to learn from learned ones, to understand from learned ones, that when we perform actions in this world, when we do karma, when we do something that we need to do, that it is very important for us to keep in mind that we're doing that in the name of Bhagwan, or we should at least try to. You perform your actions with a purpose. So he finished that, and he told Arjuna, with that wisdom, if you perform your actions, your karma in my name, understanding that if you continue to utilize your senses to do actions in this world with me in your heart, you take that wisdom, that sword of knowledge, and you fight, Arjuna. You go and you fight. Release this doubt in your heart, this doubt which is born of ignorance, and you go fight. But of course, that's the end of chapter 4. Beginning of chapter 5. Arjuna has a question for Bhagwan Shri Krishna. Because at this point, if you remember the information from chapters 1 through the end of chapter 4, Bhagwan Shri Krishna has given Arjuna 2 pieces of advice, 2 things for him to focus on. And this is causing conflict in Arjuna's mind. It starts off by saying, in verse 1 of chapter 5, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, 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 Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama,
Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna
Arjuna Uvacha Samnyasam Karmanam Krishna Punar Yogam Cham Samsase Yachtraya Etyor Ekam Tan Me Bruhi Sunischitam Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama. Arjuna at this point is confused. He says, "O Bhagwan Krishna," after praising karma sannyasa, which is the renunciation of action, you are again describing niskama karma yoga, action offered to God without attachment to its fruit, doing everything we need in the name of Bhagwan. Therefore, please tell me indefinitely, which of these 2 is auspicious for me? Which one should I be practicing? Now, when I was thinking about this, devotees, when I was reading through this verse, what I was trying to understand was what was going through Arjuna's mind at the time. And how I equated it to is an example of when I was a child. When I wanted to do something, I would try to use that logic that was given to me to do it. But when I didn't want to do something, I just didn't feel like doing it. So in this case, he has 2 pieces of information. One that says perform action through God. The other one says renounce action. Because at this point in time, devotees, keep in mind, still early on in the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna doesn't want to fight in this war. His heart is in turmoil. He thinks that fighting is going to be better than performing any action also. He wants to renounce action. So he says, which one is better? Because for me personally, I think in his mind, and this is me freely interpreting, I think he's trying to think, well, if the other one's better for me, renouncing action, then all my problems are gone. Wouldn't it be easy to just choose one of 2 options, the one that's easiest? Of course, Bhagwan Shri Krishna understands the question. And very calmly, he looks at Arjuna and he explains. He explains very specifically, if we're talking about sannyasa yoga, which is renouncing action, or if we're talking about niskama karma yoga, action offered through God, we've got to understand whether they're the same or different. He goes on to say, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Samnyasa Karma Yogascha Nishreyasakara Ubhav Tayastu Karma Samnyasat Karma Yogo Visisyate Jneyasa Nitya Samnyasi Yona Dvestina Kangsati Nirdwando Hi Mahabaho Sukham Bhandat Pramuchyate Samkhya Yoga Pratang Bhala Pravadantina Pandita Ekam Apyastita Samyugo Ubhayor Vindate Phalam Yat Samkhye Prapyate Sthanam Tad Yogera Pigamnyate Ekam Samkhyam Cha Yogam Cha Ya pasyati sa pasyati samnyasastu mahabaho dukham aptum ayogata yoga yukto munir brahma nachirina digachati. Shri Krishna sharanam mama, Shri Krishna sharanam mama, Shri Krishna sharanam mama, Shri Krishna sharanam mama. I want you to keep in mind, devotees, chapter 5 is called Sannyasa Yoga. It talks about renouncing action. And that's what the entire chapter is about. But the very beginning of the chapter talks about Niskama Karma Yoga and Sannyasa Yoga and the difference between the two, or the similarities. Bhagwan Shri Krishna says to Arjuna, both Karam Sannyasa, which is Sannyasa Yoga, and Niskama Karma Yoga are auspicious. But Niskama Karma Yoga, which is the yoga that is action offered to God without the attachments to its fruit, is certainly superior to Sannyasa Yoga. So performing our actions in the name of God, he's saying, is superior to renouncing action at all. O Arjuna, he who neither hates nor desires anything is always worthy to be known as a sannyasi. Because one who is free from the dualities of aversion and attachment easily becomes liberated from the bondage of this material world. So in order for you to renounce, in order for you to become a sannyasi, to call yourself a sannyasi, you have to neither hate nor desire anything in this world. For me, that's hard. I love broccoli, but I hate eggplant. So even something as small as that, something as minor as that, shows that I personally can't be a sannyasi at this time. My heart's not balanced because I have desires, things that I want, but I also have things that I don't want. I'm not actually balanced. Only the ignorant say that Sankha and Niskama Karma Yoga are different. So he's saying that ignorant people say that renouncing action and doing action in the name of God are different. Those are ignorant people. The wise reject such opinions. By following either path correctly, one attains the result of both in the form of moksha. So, what he's saying at this point is that there's no difference between the two. Because if you perform both, then the final result will be the same. Both lead you to attain moksha. So how, in good sense, devotees, does it make sense? How does it make sense that Niskama Karma Yoga is better than Sannyasa Yoga? How does it make sense? The result attained by Sankhya Yoga is also attained by Niskama Karma Yoga. Those who are wise and who correctly see that these both give the same result actually see, they know, they understand the world. But O Arjuna, practicing Karma Sannyasa without Niskama Karma Yoga, so practicing renouncing of actions without practicing actions in the name of Bhagwan, brings distress. But one who performs Niskama Karma Yoga, who performs actions in the name of God, becomes a jnani and very quickly attains Brahma. I thought long and hard of an analogy that I could use for this, just to make sure that we understood how both of these things give you the same results, but one is better than the other. And I equate that to those of us who say that we are going to lose weight. There's one of two methodologies you can take in order to lose weight. You can either be more active, you can exercise, do things physically outside, or you can do things internally by putting the appropriate foods inside of your body. Both of these things will get you to the same result at some point. Notice why I have a thumbs up, right? Because it's a good thing. We lose weight. However, both of these things, both actions, get us to where we need to go, just in a different time frame. When I started to exercise more, I crossed my fingers and I prayed that I would lose weight quickly. The unfortunate part was I didn't see the results as quick as I wanted to. So in multiple instances, I promised myself I was going to lose weight and I gave up. So then I thought maybe it's not about exercise. Maybe it's just about food. Maybe if I eat the right things, I'll see the results quicker. When I started eating better, when I started eating healthier, when I started eating below my caloric intake, when I started doing more veggies, more fruits, less carbohydrates, I noticed that my weight was dropping quicker. And even now that quarantine's kicked in, I'm not eating as much as I used to. I'm not going around and snacking on things. I'm eating my 3 square meals a day, except for like one day where I got in trouble for not doing that. And then I'll have a snack maybe in between. So in both instances, yes, I may have worked out, done something external, but what I did that was internal brought me more results. But what happens if I combine both things together? The result that I need to attain happens faster. So if we look at this analogy and understand that by exercising, we only lose so much, but by eating right, we can lose more, you can understand that by eating right, overall, you'll be better. Because even if I exercise the entire day, the moment I go home and I eat that chocolate cake, the moment I go home and I decide I want a soda, the moment I go home and I decide all I want to do is eat pasta, that ruins the external activity. Very funny analogy, I would say, but at the same time, it's very important. One will get us to a result a little bit quicker than the other. However, we still have to maintain both, do them right. Because at the end of the day, both will get us to the final result, but that is if we maintain balance. So don't renounce action and then just have an evil heart. And don't do work in the name of Bhagwan without sometimes renouncing action. The final thing I'll say about renouncing action is that there's some times in this world in which it is better to renounce an action than to take an action. Serena and I recently watched all 3 Karate Kid movies. All 3, the original ones. And it was funny because every time Mr. Miyagi said something, it was like he was quoting something from the Bhagvat Gita. It was like he understood what true balance was in the world. In his mind, karate, he said, te means fists. Kara means open, so it means open fist. And he said, if you're going to use karate, if you're ever going to do it, you only use it in defense. So if somebody insults you, if somebody says something mean to you, is that the right time to punch them square in the jaw? Absolutely not. Words are words. I know words, we use the analogy, words cut deeper than wounds. And that is true. But because somebody says something mean to you does not lead you to act physically against them. If somebody says something mean to me, I may retaliate back with my words, but I will never retaliate back with my actions. I will never get up and fight them. I won't do it. There may be times where I do have to do that, to defend myself, to defend my family, my wife, my future kids. There may be a time where I have to do that. But there's instances in which we're in situations in which we do not have to take action. We renounce action, and that is better than taking the action. The last example I'll give is based off how we talk to people. If somebody does something, or if they say something, if somebody builds something and it's not to your liking, it's not up to you, and they made it for themselves. They made it to their own happiness. It's not up to you to come up to them and say, oh, that looks bad. That looks terrible. I don't like the way that looks. I had an instance once when I was in Texas with some friends where somebody came up to me and he said, I don't mean to be racist. Stop right there. The moment you say that phrase, the moment that comes out of your mouth, whatever you're about to say next is going to be racist. I don't mean to sound hateful. No. By saying that phrase, by thinking that phrase, whatever you're about to say is hateful. I don't intend to sound mean, but no. The moment you say that phrase, you intend to sound mean. Renouncing action means no matter what's happening in the world, no matter how you feel about a particular subject, there's always going to be a time where you can back away, where you renounce that action, where you don't have to say what you're about to say. So the next time somebody walks into a room and maybe they've gained a little weight, or maybe their makeup is a little smeared, or maybe their clothes are a little wet, I want you to think, what did that person go through before they came here to cause them to look like that? Was their week stressful, so they stress ate? Were they in a rush this morning because, I don't know, their dog was bugging them, or they had to take care of a family member or a loved one? Were they wet because they stopped to pull over and help somebody change a tire on the road? What you see is the bad. What you don't understand is the good actions they performed. And by saying what you are about to say, you are sinning yourself and you're putting that person's mind in turmoil. And that's not fair. When we say hate, we spread hate. When we show love and share love, we spread love. So when you renounce an action, remember, renouncing is very strong. But if you're ever going to perform an action, if you choose to perform that action, do it in the name of God. If you're going to say something to someone, don't be mean about it. Renounce that action and then say something nice instead. Put a smile on their face and not a frown. But he goes on to say, what those who perform niskama karma yoga, those who perform action in the name of God are like. Bhagwan Shri Krishna goes on to state, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Yoga Yukto Vidzutnatma, Vijitatma Jitendriya, Sarvam Bhutatma Bhutatma, Kurvan Apena Lipyati, Naiva Kimchit Karomiti, Yukto Manyita Tattvavit, Pyasam Sranvan Sparsanjighram, Astan Gachan Swapan Swasan, Prala Panvisir Jhangranan, Unme Sani Me San Api, Indrayani Indrayatistu, Vartanta Iti Dharayan, Brahmanyadhaya Karmani, Sangam Tyaktva Karodhya, Lipyate Sana Papina, Padma Patram Ivamasa, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama. Bhagwan Shri Krishna goes on to state that one who performs niskama karma yoga with pure intelligence and a pure heart, who has controlled his senses, is the object of affection for all people, for all learned people. He does not become tainted by action, even when it's performed. So it says that someone who performs work in the name of God with pure intelligence and pure heart, who has controlled his senses, is the object of affection by all people, by all learned people. That's what I think a great leader is. I think people admire a great leader, not because of what kinds of money and wealth they can bring to a community or an organization, but by the way they speak, by the actions they perform, by how controlled their senses are. The funny thing about Kali Yuga, which is the age that we live in now, the dark time, is that we thrive off what we see as controversy in this world. We thrive off of the negative energy that we see. Political debates, reality television, Jersey Shore. There's a new show on Netflix called, Indian Matchmaker? Where it's about an auntie who does matchmaking, like she gets a boy and a girl, puts them together and does their charts and everything. But I can't tell you how I watched maybe 20 minutes of that show. And if I was balanced, my life would still be happy, but that show made me so mad. It made me mad because for the people that I saw in that show, they didn't have pure hearts. They didn't have their senses controlled. They would lash out at the most minor of things. They had doubts in their hearts. Something bad happened to them in the past, so that changes their perspective of the present, which alters the results in the future. They were performing actions with a purpose, and that purpose, I can sum it up into one word, and that's how I feel about it, was selfishness. I want to have the best daughter-in-law. I want to have the best life. I want someone who does only this for me. Because of that blindness, because of the fact that these people are taking actions without that pure heart, that pure mind, the fact that they're not controlling their senses made it dramatic. And I think that's what people like to watch the show. Unpopular opinion. That's fine. But someone who lives these is not tainted by action. There are some times where we do something in this world and we don't know what the effect is going to be. We don't know what the effect is going to be. Let's say that you're a child and you like throwing things out the car window, ripping up pieces of paper and throwing them out the car window. Do you know what's going to happen to the people behind you necessarily as a child? No, because as a child, what are you focused on? Throwing the tissue out the window, watching go really quickly by you, throwing out. But there are implications to those small actions that we do. Those tissues, those pieces of tissues, could cause a distraction to somebody behind you. And what happens when somebody gets distracted while they're driving? They're not in control of their senses. They swerve out and they could hit somebody else. I'm not saying that's an action. Sometimes we're going to perform actions, like for me, blessing somebody's car. They'll bring the car to the temple and I'll say a prayer on it. If I mess up on that prayer, without thinking about it, if I'm working on automatic and I accidentally mess up a prayer and I don't bless that car properly, then that person probably isn't protected at that point and they can get into a car accident. So in that instance, yes, sin affects me. So there are times that we try to do good in this world, but the end result may be bad. But if we perform our actions wholesome, truly, to the best of our abilities, we're not tainted by that action. We're not affected by the sin. The other example that I can give you is if you're performing a project at work, or even if you're doing a school project. You worked hard on this project. You've given it everything you can. Let's say you're making a solarium. You get your model of the sun, the earth, and all the planets, and you make it and you take it to school, but then somebody comments on how Mars looks funny. I don't like the color of Mars. So then you go and you try to change it. That person tainted your action, and even though you tried so hard to work on it, and then you try to make that last minute change, you end up ruining the model. And you don't get such a good grade. If you left it in your full actions, your controlled senses, if you left it to your happiness, you would have been fine. He goes on to say that when his kama karma yogi becomes situated, when he becomes situated in jnana, in transcendental knowledge, knowing what to do, he concludes with his intelligence that even while he is seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, eating, moving, sleeping, breathing, speaking, grasping, and opening and closing his eyes, he actually does nothing. Rather, his senses are engaged with the respective sense objects. Have you ever done that before? You're working on something, and then 2 or 3 hours goes by, and then you look up and you go, oh man, what happened? 2 or 3 hours went by. I thought it was only 20 minutes. It's because your senses were so devoted into the thing that you were doing that the rest of the world around you was lost. You were working on automatic. We use that word very, very often. We work on automatic. I've been in that situation many times before. I'm working on a report for work. I'm typing. I tell myself I'm going to give it, and then once I'm done, I'll go home. And then I'll get finished, and I'll look, and I'll see that it's been 2 hours. And then I'll look down on my phone and see that I've missed calls. I've missed text messages. I've missed emails. But that's because I was so devoted into the work that I was doing. Because there was a purpose behind it, that I blocked off my senses, worked internally, and let my body operate as it needed to be. I didn't let anything in the world bug me at that point. And that's what it's saying here. Niskama karma yogi becomes situated in jnana, in transcendental knowledge, because that kind of person is performing work in the name of God, and he's letting his senses or her senses be engaged with the respective sense objects. They're doing what they need to do, and they're also doing this automatic work because it's natural to them. It's second nature. It's like walking for us. We walk every single day because that's second nature to us. But what happens when you sit down for a long period of time? What happens when you sit down for a long period of time? What happens when you get up and you try to walk? Yeah. I stand up. I'm a 30-year-old man, but I look like a baby when I walk after I sit down for 2 hours. Right? Because my legs are asleep. My muscles tightened up. So it's not to say that we have to perform these actions just once or twice. We've got to continue to perform them. We've got to continue to control our senses. We've got to continue to do that work with a purpose, because the moment we lose that purpose, the moment we start practicing without that purpose, the moment we stop doing something, it all falters. He goes on to say, Bhagavan Sri Krishna goes on to say that one who has renounced attachment to karma, to action, and offers all of the fruits of his action to me does not become affected by sin, just as a lotus leaf remains untouched by water. It took me a second to realize this, because I was like, lotus leaves float on water. How does a lotus leaf not get touched by water? My mom, of course, corrected me. Lotus leaves have specific fibers that come out from them that make them hydrophobic material, meaning that when water drops on it, it beads on the lotus leaf, but it does not get absorbed by the lotus leaf. Rather, it hits the lotus leaf and it runs off. It falls off. In that sense, the lotus leaf is not necessarily affected by the rain. Rain could continue to hit it, but the water will just fall off. As such a manner, devotees, we have to live the same. If we announce attachment to karma, if we announce attachment to our actions, and offer all of the fruits of everything that we do to Bhagwan, we do not become affected by sin. Sin can come at us from all directions, but it's just going to hit us and roll off. So, going back to what we said in verses 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, Bhagwan Shri Krishna is saying that there is renouncing action, and then there's action in the name of Bhagwan. Both give you the same results, one more powerful than the other, but both work hand in hand. Going back to the weight analogy, if you want to lose a lot of weight and you want to do it quickly, you eat right, you exercise appropriately. One of them builds up your body and makes it stronger. The other one, I would say, I guess, cleans out the machinery to make sure that there are no clogs that happen in the future. You need both to maintain balance in your life. You need both to get to where you need to go. And if you do not practice both, your end journey, the place you need to get to, will take that much longer. That's the very beginning of chapter 5. But Bhagwan Shri Krishna is not done. He goes on to tell Arjuna, "O Arjuna, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, 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 Kayena Manasa Buddhya Kevaler Indriyer Api Yogina Karma Kuranti Sangam Tyaktva Masuddhai Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama. Bhagwan Shri Krishna says, you know how a Niskama Karma Yogi purifies his mind? You know how somebody who lives that life purifies their mind? How you have a pure mind? He tells Arjuna that if you tune in next Sunday for our regular Sunday virtual satsang, you'll find out the answer. Prem se Bolo Krishna Chandra Bhagwan ki Jai. Devotees, before we continue on with our closing prayers and final announcements, we will have one bhajan.
जय माधव मदन मुरारी जय माधव मदन मुरारी जय केशव कलिमलहारी जय सुंदर कुंडल नैन विशाला सुंदर कुंडल नैन विशाला गले सोहे वैजंती माला गले सोहे वैजंती माला या जब की बलिहारी जय माधव मदन मुरारी जय माधव मदन मुरारी। सब डोल लूट लूट दधिकायो सब डोल लूट लूट दधिकायो कब हो मधुबन रास रचायो कब हो मधुबन रास रचायो नाचत पीर नतिहारी जय माधव मदन मुरारी जय माधव मदन मुरारी। जय माधव मदन मुरारी जय माधव मदन मुरारी जय केशव कलिमलहारी जय केशव कलिमलहारी जय माधव मदन मुरारी जय माधव मदन मुरारी जय माधव मदन मुरारी।
Devotees, at this time, I ask that we all please clasp our hands, close our eyes, focus our minds on the feet of Bhagwan as we offer these closing prayers. Om Sarvesham Swasti Bhavatu Sarvesham Shanti Bhavatu Sarvesham Purunam Bhavatu Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu Om Sarve Sukhino Bhavantu Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashantu Ma Kaschita Dugabhag Bhave Om Mantrahinam Kriyahinam Bhaktihinam Janardanam Yatya Pujatam Maya Deva Paripurnam Dharastu Me Papuam Papu Karmaham Papu Atma Papu Sambhava Trahimam Pundari Kaksham Sarva Papu Haro Hari Om Tvameva Matascha Pita Tvameva Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha Tvameva Tvameva Vidya Dravinam Tvameva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Om Asatoma Sargamaya Tamasuma Jyotirgamaya Mrityoma Mritam Yamaya Hari Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Om Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Deo Maheshwara Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurue Namaha Tasmai Shri गुरुवे नमः। ॐ द्यौ शान्ति अंतरिक्षं शान्तिर् पृथ्वी शान्तिरापा शान्तिर् औषधेय शान्तिर् वनस्पति शान्तिर् विश्वदेव शान्तिर् ब्रह्मा शान्तिर् सर्वगुं शान्तिर् शान्तिरेव शान्ति सामा शान्तिरेरि। हरि ओम शांति शांति शांति। हरि ओम तत्सत। प्रेम से बोलो गणेश भगवान की जय। प्रेम से बोलो आदि शक्ति दुर्गा माता की जय। प्रेम से बोलो विष्णु भगवान की जय। प्रेम से बोलो शिव शंकर भगवान की जय। प्रेम से बोलो शिव शक्ति मंदिर की जय। प्रेम से बोलो सनातन धर्म की जय। Devotees, before we continue on with our final announcements, we will have one more bhajan and we will be right back.
जय नारायणी जय जय दुर्गे जय जय अम्बे नमो नमः। जय नारायणी जय जय दुर्गे जय जय अम्बे नमो नमः। जय 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 अम्बे नमो नमः। तेरा पावन सिमरन करके अंतर में सुख भर आता। तेरा पावन सिमरन करके अंतर में सुख भर आता। रोम रोम में प्रेम तिहारा बन के भक्ति भी कर जाता। जय कल्याणी जय जय दुर्गे जय जय अम्बे नमो नमः। जय नारायणी जय जय दुर्गे जय जय अम्बे नमो नमः। मनंतर में मंत्र बनो तुम जीवन में गुंजारो माँ। मनंतर में मंत्र बनो तुम जीवन में गुंजारो माँ। जन्म जन्म के संतापों को तेज से अपने जला दो माँ। जय रुद्राणी जय जय दुर्गे जय जय अम्बे नमो नमः। जय नारायणी जय जय दुर्गे जय जय अम्बे नमो नमः। ध्यान भजन हम निश दिन करके मन में जपते नाम वेम। ध्यान भजन हम निश दिन करके मन में जपते ते नाम विमल शरण परे का एक सहारा मैया तेरे चरण कमल जय शिवानी जय जय दुर्गे जय जय अम्बे नमो नमः जय नारायणी जय जय दुर्गे जय जय अम्बे नमो नमः जय जय अम्बे नमो नमः जय जय अम्बे नमो नमः.
Devotees, Jai Sita Ram, we would like to thank each and every one of you for being here today to join us for our virtual Sunday morning satsang. We just have a few announcements we'd like to share. The first is for the events that we have this month. So on Tuesday, which is August 11th at 7 o'clock p.m., we will be celebrating our Krishna Janmashtami Puja, but we will be doing that entire puja virtually. So for those of you who are interested in joining, I ask that you be here on our YouTube channel at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time so we can commence our Krishna Janmashtami Puja. For those of you who are at home, I know that you may have a desire to perform puja as well. My ask is that you don't have to have all of the materials or all of the supplies ready, but if you'd like to have something together, you need to have at least a Lord Krishna Murti, some water to bathe with, some chandan to apply to Bhagwan Shri Krishna, a tea candle or some sort of light to perform arti. You need to have some fruits, prasad, mahambog, things to offer to Bhagwan Shri Krishna, and then finally, and lastly, a nice, calm, clear mind so that you can offer final prayer and obediences to Bhagwan Shri Krishna. So again, that is a lota of water, that is some chandan, that is a diya to perform arti, some fruits and mahambog to offer to Bhagwan Shri Krishna, and fifth and finally, a clear and calm mind. At the time that we perform puja, I will announce what things that you can do at home, but you can also follow along with us as we'll have a full setup here and we'll be doing everything as appropriate for you to join in. So again, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time this Tuesday, August 11th, we'll be celebrating our Krishna Janmashtami Puja. And then on Friday, August 21st, which is not this coming Friday, but the Friday next, Friday, August 21st, we will also be doing our Ganesh Chaturthi Puja. And on that date, we will also be doing puja virtually. We will not be in the mandir. We will not be in the temple. We will actually be at a remote location performing that puja. So for those of you who are interested in joining in with us, I ask that you join in at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on our YouTube channel for Ganesh Chaturthi Puja. Before we end today, devotees, we do have a few other announcements in regards to birthdays. This week, there were 4 people that celebrated their birthdays. We have Mr. Ray Prasad, good friend, Derek Somer, who's also a good friend, Tejas Sangar, who's an amazing nephew, and then my grandmother-in-law, but also my grandmother, celebrated her birthday as well this week, Saraswati Naidu. So to all 4 of you, happy, happy birthday. There was also a number of people that celebrated anniversaries. I guess, was it this week, Dad, that they celebrated? So I think this week was a very popular week back in the day for, or even now for people to have gotten married. We have Sister Mandy and Brother Saif celebrated their anniversary. Uncle Jagdish and Auntie Rita celebrated their anniversary. Uncle Mol and Auntie Ratan celebrated their anniversary. Auntie Drew and her husband celebrated their anniversary. And Uncle Sam and Auntie Patsy had also celebrated their anniversary this week. So to all, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 of you, we would like to wish you on behalf of the executive board and the Shiv Shakti Mandir and all of its attendees, all of you, a very happy anniversary. And to those of you who celebrated a birthday, happy birthday as well. Devotees, until next time, I again want to thank you all for being here for our virtual Sunday morning satsang. I hope that you all have a safe, wonderful, happy, and healthy week. And the only advice that I can give to you based off everything we've talked about today is if you're in a situation where you feel there's turmoil in your mind and in your heart, just breathe. Focus on Bhagwan. Inhale very deeply and exhale, let it all out. Take the time to focus, find your center, and move on and continue to do the work that you're doing. Have a wonderful week, devotees. Jai Sita Ram.